He's a two-faced opportunist. He sucks, and
we're all First Amendment, baby. We can say what we want. I think he seems like a decent guy.
You're wrong.
I think he's a cross between both of you, really.
I think he's just
again. You know what he is? He is again. This is the word of today. Lib Dem. He's got Lib Dem politics.
Yeah, that's better than like Lib policies.
No, I reckon
slightly.
the opposition leader should be a fucking old school hardened psycho. You know?
Yeah, but the thing is,
I don't know about
you can't do it anymore. Look, this is something that I was talking to today with Mr. E. Check him out. But,
hey, he took his mask off.
Yeah, he demasked.
He demasked, bruv. Mr. E demasked.
No way.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah, he's out.
Oh, good on him. That's sick.
We got to get him on because he knows a lot about the Dark Enlightenment.
Yeah, now we can hear him. That isn't a muffled voice.
Well, I'm going to miss that. But, you know, judging with our mics, it'll still be muffled. So the good times live on.
We'll get him on for sure. What does he have to say? What is that?
I was just talking with him today about this, right? The Liberals, this was always the pact, and this is what's happening in this very skewed electorate that we are having now, right?
Commie Harris.
The whole reason the Liberals exist, why do they exist? Does anyone know?
Why do they exist?
Yeah.
Protect the rights of the capital.
economy.
True. I mean, that's a given, obviously. We all know that there's superior economic managers, and that's backed by decades of data.
Dude, they exist. They exist for the old hand, the old gentry. You know, like some people don't like poor people, and frankly, neither do I. But you know, it's important to look after them. It's important to look after them, but
they are filthy.
It's like the old, you know, it's the people that are just like. It's like the old upper class are just like, get your scrubby Cooper's ale away from me.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. Well, that's one element of what they used to be. I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what, the reason that the Liberal Party exists. Go on, you give
one
me
second.
answer.
Just the Whig Party was a good description of them.
The Whig Party?
Yeah, they just represent the viewpoint of the capitalists, the owners.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I have a much more friendly Geordie's answer to it. Could you guess what I would say the reason for them existing is? Venice? Yeah. That's a very friendly Geordie's answer. Yeah. That's more of an up-late friendly Geordie's answer, which is rapidly, in today's anti-Israel climate, becoming quite a mainstay one. Main pod, but not yet. Can anyone get what the censored friendly Geordie's answer would be?
It's like banks and property.
Banks and property, yeah. Look, it's definitely like you're looking at it from one paradigm, but the other paradigm, like on a political level, on an economic level, yeah, but on a political level, the reason it exists is to keep Labor out of power. That is its reason for existing.
Well, by default, that would be the
that's just a given.
What do you mean?
Well, that's like saying the Greens.
Well, the Labor Party wants to get in to implement things.
Oh.
The Liberal Party, by its very creation, by Robert Menzies, was just to keep the Labor Party out of power. Yeah. That was its point.
But I thought their whole policy was don't change anything. Don't do anything. I thought that was one of their policies.
Well, it was very Howard era.
Yeah.
That's what they used to stand for. Who knows what they stand for these days? That's the whole thing that I'm getting at now. What is the Liberal Party now?
Well, they're having an identity crisis for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that is? I think I've really got something here.
Because they're going on it's like they saw Trump, right? And they were like, well, this is going to be the new model. We can go nuts. This is amazing. And then I think it's a surprise globally that there's been such a backlash against Trumpism. So now they're like, shit, we can't do this now because everyone hates it.
Well, that's true.
So they probably don't know where they're
That was a tactic that they were using, and that you're absolutely right about that. I'm saying if John Howard was running in this election and he wasn't the same age as Bernie Sanders, say that he was 60s Howard, he would have had a completely different strategy to this election.
You reckon?
Absolutely. But I'll preface that with, in this current moment, I don't think that he could have fared. He would have fared better, but I don't think that he could have stopped what is happening to the Liberal Party now. I think that what is happening to them is an incredible rift.
Jordan, what happens now? Because
fully.
Okay, so if you look at the progression, there used to be the wets used to be in power. You had Malcolm Turnbull, and then afterwards there was a bit of a purge where even someone like Scott Morrison, who wasn't necessarily the far right, but was a chameleon enough to basically assume that identity, and his miracle election win was an indication that moderate liberals are useless now. And then you obviously would have Peter Dutton as the next candidate. That's failed. The wets have failed. What's the strategy now?
Exactly.
They just have to decide.
This is what I'm saying.
They just have to decide whether they want to be Peter Dutton or they want to be Malcolm Turnbull.
But they've tried both.
They can't. That's what Ali's getting at. They can't.
They've done both of them, and they've failed at both.
They failed at both. This is what I'm saying. You know what's happening to the Liberal Party? I'm telling you, it all makes sense when you realise that Robert Menzies set it up purely to keep the Labor Party out of power, right? That's the whole point. So his point was always to the capitalists, if we're going to use those terms, was to say to them, guys, I'm going to give you 80% of what you want, but you have to understand that to keep the Labor Party out of power, we need to implement certain policies that are popular amongst the public and are going to keep things going. So like an expanded social safety net, more public housing, infrastructure projects. We're still going to have to keep taxes at a certain level. You're just going to have to accept these. And that's going to be the agreement amongst you guys, right? And so there was the broad institution amongst the capitalists, this kind of agreement that, okay, we're going to play ball. They have the vision. Politically, they know where the boundaries are, and we can keep in power by doing that. That was sort of the agreement that they had. You look at what is happening now, and all the wets have moved into the Teals. That is a party in all but name. The independents are not independent at all. They are all just run by Simon Holmes Accord. They are all run by Climate 200 money, which is just a bunch of liberals throwing a tantrum. That's your Lib Dems, your Malcolm Turnbull faction. They are throwing a tantrum about it because culturally they don't agree with the direction of the Liberal Party. They find it utterly offensive. They just say such offensive things and there's not enough women and just very hoity-toity Lib Dem bullshit, right? So they've moved away. They've fucked off. They're not coming back. They've formed their own little fiefdom faction of just annoying pansies, right? That's the annoying pansies one. Then you have the base faction that John Howard was able to hold. He was able to hold that. He was routinely undermining them in a bunch of grassroots things. He did make the Liberal Party much more conservative than it usually was, than it was before that. But then you have a bunch of, you see it, I think, this might not pan out, but all things go the way that One Nation wants it to go. One Nation is looking at a senator in every single state. That's huge for them.
And hugely disappointing for me.
Ali out.
Yes.
Hey.
Here we go. The Malcolm Turnbull out here. Just what has happened to this part?
We'll be sad to see you go, champ.
Hey,
I'm really going to miss you, Ali.
I'm an aspirational Aussie. I want to move from Craig Kelly's electorate to Wentworth, baby. So I want to mentally be there already.
Yeah. He's getting his mind right.
I have to slowly make my trek. I think I'm going to move to Ashfield first. I can't go straight. It's too much of a culture shock. You freak out.
Yeah, no, he can't.
Too much water.
He's got the right move.
Open water.
So
And he does not want to end up in Ipswich.
Ashfield, Inner West, and then eventually the Paddington Wentworth area.
So wait, the fact
And
that
that-
All shit inner city terraces.
And once I get into that zone, I want to tell you, I think I'm going to have to be pro-Israel as well.
Yeah.
and I'm willing to do this.
Full circle. Full
That's why I'm
circle.
softening my language.
I mean, at the end of the day, they have a right to exist.
I mean, are you saying?
Muslims for Israel.
Are you saying? No, there's
Wentworth Muslims for Israel.
There has to be.
there wouldn't be.
Wentworth Muslims for Israel.
I guarantee you there's not. But what one? You reckon every senator? What are you saying? One nation is going to have broad wins? Is that what you're saying? I don't understand.
Well, it's looking like that.
Really?
Yeah. They are eating away at the LNP vote because Peter Dutton, again, his strategy was, I'm going to be like Trump. Then he decided, actually, I'm not like Trump. So all of the yahoos in the Liberals are just like, he's weak, as I'm moving to one nation.
Right, yeah.
protest.
There's a lot of
Which is
one
why
nation
you hear all these
love
people saying,
online.
oh, why is the preferences moving towards the Liberals more than they used to before? That is the reason why. Because they are disaffected Liberal voters that are moving into one nation. So on either side, the Liberal Party is getting pulled in twain. The two factions that they were able to hold together for so long, purely because, you have to understand this, people that vote for the Liberal Party are by their nature vacuous people. They are vacuous.
What do you mean?
They don't really care about the direction of the country. The country is more or less just a threat to them.
They care about the direction of their house. Is it sea facing or not?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what they care about.
That's
they
not
are
vacuous.
Individualists.
That's not vacuous.
They are individualists that are forced to be collective.
Yes,
or at
that's
the very
true, that's
least,
true.
back in the day, they understood to keep Labor out, we have to collegiate together.
Okay, on that point, okay, what do you think about this observation? Firstly, the difference that you're talking about, the Teals moving away and forming an own faction, it's a bit of a civil war in the Liberal Party. Don't you think that happened with Labour ages ago, and that's what the Greens are?
Yes.
Secondly,
Yeah.
Not to the same extent. Not to the same extent.
okay, we'll come back to this. But second thing, don't you think that like you have to give Australian Labor Party credit? They've done so. If you look at the American Democrats, you see like the Democrats, the civil war is way more pronounced. Like you know the AOC faction, and the right faction of it, and they are at loggerheads, and they like almost side with the other side to keep each other out of the thing. Whereas in Australia, I think the Australian Labor Party has been able to deal with the left factions and right factions a lot better than their American counterparts. And on the other hand, the Liberals haven't been able to. Which is why it's been split.
Again, why? Because there is something underpinning the Labor Party that is not underpinning the Democrats, and that's unions. That's why. So at the end of the day, they are forced to respond to working people. This is why you see with polling now, was incredible. Polling came out,
Poor libs. There's people that are individuals and independent thinkers forced to unionize. Disgusting.
That's what happened, ironically. They had to unionize.
Yeah, but they don't want to.
They don't want to be there.
And I get it. I do get it.
The irony of life.
It is.
Yes.
Very unfair, really.
But the thing is that, like, you can see this reflected in across the globe. There is a push away from your Democrats parties, and as much as I hate this phrase, centre-left parties across the world.
I love that phrase.
They are young men are moving away from these parties. Why? Because really, look, it's a very nasty, hoarded thing that I'm saying with all of this, because I can point out 100 policies that benefit the working class when it comes to the Democrats or the Labor Party in the UK. However, they are just not as pronounced. They are not right in your back pocket as the Labor Party, because the unions are there saying you have to improve the standards of working people. So in this term, if you're in a working family, you're $10,000 better off under Labor.
Damn.
You've got free TAFE. You've got a $10,000 apprenticeship coming in. You've got all of these tax alleviations for the lower class and middle class.
Let's get some qualifications if they get in. Do you want it?
Yeah, let's build up some more hex debt. Why not?
No, free TAFE.
Oh, yeah, it's free now.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, you guys. I'm very interested in being hands-on. I've got a podcast.
I'll do whatever, dude.
I want to learn how to make the mics work before. Yeah, do that. Do audio technician, for fuck's sake. We need it. And still, you wouldn't be educated enough to do it because you didn't go to uni.
Yeah, I realized.
Sorry, not to cut you off.
I realized that Dutton might not scrape through this election when I found out, dude, that my father-in-law, who has never voted Labour in his entire life, always votes Liberal, is voting Labour this time around.
And what's his reasoning?
Peter Dutton just isn't up for it.
Yeah.
And Abo is not that bad.
Yes, there
I wonder
we go.
what my mom's going to vote.
Me too.
I don't know.
Probably One Nation.
I mean, I spoke to her the other day, and then we were talking, and she just randomly, mentioned that she likes nuclear power. I'm like, okay.
There we go. So it does speak to quiet Australia. Because if there's one thing Gus and your mum are, it's quiet.
Dude, I actually asked Miss Love this question. I was like, how were your parents married? They're both politically so different.
My dad was a lot more conservative when he was younger.
Yeah, that was it.
And was your mom a bit more progressive when she was younger?
Dude, it was an anti-Labor union.
Yeah, it was. There's an anti-Labor union.
And that's why Miss Love exists.
What do you mean?
Just a birth of anyone but Labor.
Yeah, exactly.
And then ironically, she was in Labor to give birth to
Well, that's true. And then for the longest time, I was like, commie Labor. But look,
I think
it's just common shit. Yeah, I'm just this. Look, I'm not one of these. Aren't these unions a little bit iffy? I'm keeping my eye on all these gruff, overpaid tradies that this guy simps for every day. But generally speaking,
don't you think that the Liberals
let me finish
for tradies? But yeah,
they do. But generally speaking, it's just the sensible choice. I'm one of these people that's like, I don't know if I like it, but it's the right choice.
Let me read this chat because I think it's good. Libs still have the historic boomer voters that will support them no matter what. So they're still a threat for a few more years, in my opinion. Question is, what comes next? Probably something more reactionary to get the younger right crowd. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Well, no, so here's the interesting thing.
I think temporarily, this is my thing. I think temporarily, let's assume that Peter Dutton loses this election. If he loses it pretty badly, he's probably not going to be the opposition leader. The next one, because Liberals are dumb enough, they'll try to get someone that's more moderate, thinking that that's going to win them the next election. They're probably going to be wrong about that because you're right. I think the best way for them, and however bad this sounds, the best way for them is to be more reactionary to get the right younger crowd.
But see, this is the whole thing. Guys, that is a global phenomenon. It is not specific in Australia. The polling shows that young Australians, especially men, are extremely pro-Labor. I think it's
they're
2
switching.
to 1.
Really? They're switching.
No,
dude.
they're going the other way.
I meet kids at your show that tell me when I was in high school, I started watching Friendly Jordies. I hated it because I was alt-right. And they're 20. They're still young. They're 20 years old. But now I'm actually pro-Labor.
Yes.
Which means that, dude, these young crowds, they're very impressionable. The real MAGA ones could tomorrow switch over to the other side. They might become communists. What I'm saying is right. They're not really, they're ideological. Obviously, they're very ideological, but their ideology is not ideological at all.
Yes, but this whole commie view that people have, that this is the way I'm going to express it, right? I have been talking to Mr. E about this a lot, right? Commies look at the world, and generally, I begrudgingly admit that a lot of the time they're right and I'm wrong, right? And I think the reason that they are generally right is because they are looking at things from a global perspective. And generally, when you look at most centre-left and centre-right parties across the planet, again, nasty hoarded, there's not a difference. What I say is there's not that much of a difference. And so really, what did the Democrats basically run on for years? If you're a white male, we hate you. That was pretty much what their messaging was for ages, because they've got nothing really to offer the public that really, you can sell them in terms of their differences. Again, they do have major differences. It's just not as pronounced as it is with a workers' party, as opposed to what you have with the Democrats, which again is this Lib Dem, we're nicer rich people kind of attitude that you have, right? And so across the world, culture wars work. Culture wars really work across the planet because, whether they're in or out doesn't really affect your life that much. And so it kind of just becomes this thing of just do transsexuals annoy me or not? And then you run entire national elections on that.
But I think that's gone. That's what I'm saying. That's history, dude. There is no way a Democrat is running another election on transsexuals. Not that they did it this time around, but at least they were, they would get caught.
Again, but you can't substantively. Maybe if AOC gets in, maybe if the Bernie Sanders workers movement takes over the Democrats, maybe that will work. But at the moment, if you're not economically changing people's lives, then what is there? What are you offering? Whereas in Australia, it's like, okay.
Wait, if you ain't talking about cash, then what the hell
is
y'all talking about?
We got to play that on
Well
the upload.
said.
I heard it the other day. It's so good. But here, like, you know, the Labor Party does substantively change your life. And they feel it. You can feel the difference of them being in.
I can't feel it.
The energy rebate. You can't, but that's because you're not struggling.
Yeah, true.
You know?
Yeah, but like, dude, rents in Sydney, you're struggling.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
Yeah, like the rent's too damn high, right?
Yeah.
Like cost of living, all this stuff. But they understand that the Labor Party has implemented things to combat that.
But
And
I know, I've seen the numbers, you know.
What?
Like they're changing things, irrelevant of if I feel it or not.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's obvious that that's happening.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why here you are not getting that same backlash that you are getting across the planet. Young men are moving towards the Labor Party.
Really?
Young women are moving towards the Labor Party. Admittedly, a lot of them are moving towards the Greens, but I think that's basically because they spend all their life on Instagram and all the Instagram influencers are pro-Green. But, you know, at the very least, they're not combative against the Labor Party. They are moving towards the Labor Party, just not in as big droves. And I think that conversely, the Liberals, because we have this sort of like minor parties can get in mentality here, they're always talking about the fact that like people are just like abandoning the major parties in droves. Not really. Not really. The Labor Party usually has a primary vote around like the mid to high 30s. Granted, last time it was like closer to it was in the low 30s, barely in the low 30s, so, and it will move up to the mid 30s and the high 30s here. So their base is pretty fucking solid. We are getting to the point in this election where the Liberals' primary could be lower than the Labor Party. I don't think that's ever happened in history. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is a bad state for the Liberal Party to be in. That is shameful. That's two parties that are getting a lower primary than one party. So people are sticking towards the Labor Party because they understand that this is the vehicle that gets things done, right? The Liberal Party has lost that mantle. What they are changing instead is you have people moving into the Teals and One Nation, because in this day and age, I swear to God, it's because social media has just made us much more narcissistic. If you are voting for the Liberals, really, a lot of the time, you talk to most Liberals, a lot of the time, the reason that they're voting for the Liberal Party, it's not really ever to do with policies. It's just because the mainstream press has just cocked it into their head that the Labor Party's bad, because that is the reason that the Liberal Party exists. And that is deteriorating before their eyes because of social media. And you have to understand, these are narcissism votes. People voting for the Teals and people voting for One Nation is because these people, you think that the average One Nation voter is not well off. They're well off. Truck drivers get paid a lot, you know? They're quite well off. The reason that they're voting for it is pure aesthetics. They are voting for them on cultural reasons. That is, and they are starting to lose track of the main game, which is, guys, if the Labor Party keeps getting in, they're going to keep redistributing our wealth. They're no longer thinking about that stuff anymore. It's more just about like, Pauline Hanson triggers the libtards, you know? And
I am their pro.
And the Teals are the triggered libtards.
I am pro their tank Australia into a depression policy.
So, man, I think that we're like looking at this new era where it's like,
here's another.
Well, what are they going to do? Because the thing is, I think that what's happening is this whole thing of just like this whole endless idiocy that you hear online of like, we're done with the majors. Those people are Liberal voters that have just realised it's no longer cool to say that you're a Liberal
that's
voter.
not true. There's Labor as well that are going to independents.
I'm done too.
There's heaps of Labor people going. These people, like there's members that there's a lot of members that have left Labor and gone independent. Like whoever was in Xenophon's seat, there are people that have.
Yeah, but why did they move? Because they're like opportunistic rats that realize like, oh, I'm too low on the Senate seat preference, and so I'm just going to like. Fatima Payman was that. It's just she was so low on the ticket. It was a miracle that she scraped through. It was just because West Australia just really swung towards Labor that she even got in. She realized if I don't make an identity of myself, I am not going to get in on the Labor ticket. So she became this like proud independent. All independents are just opportunists, right? So like, yeah,
It's not just a lib thing.
What?
The independent phenomenon is not purely a liberal thing.
Man, the Labor Party, it is a stretch to say that is included in the independent movement. You can find examples of it, but it is for a completely different reason. It's just individual people realising, I want to hold my Senate seat and I can't under the Labor Party banner. So they're moving, right? But Teals are just outright, no, we're not liberals anymore. We hate them.
Hey, I've got another question for you because...
And so anyway, my big question is, at the end of this, sorry, just ask this in 1 sec. I just want to summarize with this. Dude, in that fractured environment, what the hell do the liberals do? And this is a really bad thing about all of society that does keep me up at night. I do like the fact that we still have the Labor Party there because, like, the older I get, the more pro I am these big institutions that kind of just keep the country running. And that example of the Liberal Party used to be this overarching institution that was kind of just like, dude, politics is our area, capitalists. Stay out of it. You don't know how to cobble together a win. We do. This is our expertise. Stay out of it. Now you have all these dickhead idiot billionaires who are like, no, I know better. And I'm telling you, it's the fracturing of narcissism. And so their institution is crumbling. I'm very happy as a Labor voter, but I think in the long, long trajectory, this is really bad for democracy because it's just going to endlessly splinter. But having said that, Labor's holding pretty damn strong given the circumstances. Sorry.
So why isn't it happening to Labor as much?
Because Labor, by its very nature, is a material party that is about cobbling together a coalition. Everybody in the Labor Party from the very beginning of the Labor Party is they have vehement disagreements with the Labor Party. But they all, it's a mature person's vote. It's just, okay, we don't all agree on everything, but to get anything done, we all need to just come to a compromise and move forward with it. You know, if you are a Labor voter, you have that ingrained in your head from the very beginning. You're just like, okay, the Labor Party is going to disappoint me in certain areas. You know, they're not going to do as much as I wanted on this, and they're not going to do as much as I want on that. But I am mature enough to understand that to get anything, you need to push forward in a block, you know? But Liberal voters don't have that. The average Australian voter does not have that in their head.
Yeah.
If you're a true believer, you have that.
True believer.
Okay, so my question was, what's the Murdoch media's view on this election? Because it seems like the media hasn't been like too lovey-dovey towards Peter Dutton this time around.
Yeah,
Why is
I
that?
think that honestly, the Murdoch media has just realised like this is a dud.
Do you think the Murdoch media
They're having tantrums
is
about it.
losing relevance as well? Because you know how like Murdoch sold a lot of his assets? Like I think they just sold KO or Foxtel or something, didn't they? Like, what's happening over there?
I don't know what's happening. I'll have to look into what's going on with the Murdoch empire. But I will say that obviously in the age of just endless opinions online, they're obviously diluting in relevance. And again, it used to be this monolithic institution that you had your four media barons on side. You could get the Liberal Party elected, but they have all just transfixed into like Climate 200, just their endless talking points online, endlessly. They dominate online. They put all their money into online. The Murdoch press just can't really get its talking points out anymore because this is the other thing as well. Like with young people, this is the smart thing that Climate 200 and the independents have figured out. They figured out that the new alter 4D chess move is to sit there and say, fuck billionaires, we hate billionaires, lobbying's bad, all that kind of stuff, while they are completely funded by billionaires that push through the main agenda points that they want, you know? So they have moved into that realm. Man, I honestly, it's really strange thinking about what the Liberal Party will be in 10 years because I think that whole, on this trajectory, that kind of broad coalition, if you will.
Coalition.
Coalition, yeah.
Yay.
Damn right. Finally, some common sense interjected into this conversation. Coalition, by the way, is not a disparaging term.
No, it's not.
It keeps the lights on.
Thank you. Anyway, go on.
But that's it. It's just like, yeah.
Should I end the pod with my India versus Pakistan meme war segment?
Oh, do it. Can you get them up though?
Yeah, I think I can.
You sure?
But can we also get up Mislavs or no?
Oh, my
Miss
little
Rose?
video. I can airdrop you a little
Yeah,
video.
But also airdrop